Pinocchio. If one day you could do anything you wanted, would you still listen to your parents? If telling a lie only caused a small problem, would you still choose to be honest? Pinocchio is the story of a wooden boy who makes many mistakes, faces many challenges. Through his adventures, he discovers that growing up is not about doing whatever you want. It is about making the right choices and caring for the people who love you. In a small, quiet town in Italy, there was once an old woodcarver named Geppetto. He lived alone in a tiny workshop filled with tools, wood shavings, and half-finished toys. Every day, he carved puppets for children, but deep in his heart, he wished for something more. He wished for someone he could truly love, like a son. One evening, as the wind moved softly through the town, Geppetto found a special piece of wood. It was strange because it seemed almost alive. When he touched it, it felt warm, like it had a heartbeat inside. He smiled and said to himself, "This will become my best puppet." That night, under the light of a small oil lamp, Geppetto began to carve. He shaped a head with bright eyes, a small nose, and a smiling mouth. He carved 2 arms, 2 legs, and a small body. As he worked, he talked to the puppet as if it could hear him. "You will be a good boy," he said gently. "You will make me proud." But something unexpected happened. As soon as the puppet was finished, its eyes moved. Geppetto stopped breathing for a moment. Then the puppet's nose suddenly grew longer. The puppet blinked and looked around the room as if it were alive. "Hello?" the puppet said. Geppetto dropped his tools in shock. Then, slowly, his shock turned into joy. "You can talk," he said. "You can move." "Yes, I can," said the puppet, "but I don't know who I am." Geppetto thought for a moment and smiled. "You are my son now. I will call you Pinocchio." From that moment, Pinocchio was no longer just a wooden puppet. He was full of curiosity about the world. He asked many questions, ran around the house, and touched everything he saw. Geppetto, although tired, felt happier than he had ever felt before. That night, Geppetto decided to send Pinocchio to school like a real boy. He sold his only coat to buy a school book. He was poor, but he wanted Pinocchio to have a better future. The next morning, Geppetto said, "Pinocchio, you must go to school. Learn well and be a good boy." "I will," Pinocchio said, though he was already looking out the window, distracted by birds and noises from the street. As soon as he stepped outside, Pinocchio saw the world full of excitement. He forgot his promise very quickly. On the way to school, he heard music coming from a puppet theater. The sound of drums, laughter, and singing pulled him closer and closer. Pinocchio stopped walking. "School can wait," he thought, "just for a little while." He followed the sound and entered the puppet theater. Inside, the audience was cheering. On stage, puppets were dancing and acting. The crowd laughed and clapped. Pinocchio felt amazed. He had never seen anything like it. But then something strange happened. The puppet master, a large man with a heavy voice, noticed Pinocchio on the stage. "A wooden boy," he shouted. "He will make my show even better." He grabbed Pinocchio and wanted to keep him in the theater forever. Pinocchio was frightened and tried to escape. "Let me go! I need to go to school," he shouted. But the puppet master did not listen. He locked Pinocchio in a cage. That night, Pinocchio cried for the first time. He thought about Geppetto, who had worked so hard to send him to school. He felt a strange pain inside his wooden heart. Suddenly, a small, glowing fairy appeared in the room. She had soft blue light around her and spoke gently. "Why are you crying, Pinocchio?" He said, "I disobeyed my father. Now I am trapped." The fairy looked at him kindly. "If you learn to be brave, honest, and responsible, you can become a real boy one day. But every time you lie, your nose will grow." Pinocchio did not fully understand, but he nodded. The fairy helped him escape from the puppet master, and Pinocchio ran all the way back home. But when he arrived, Geppetto was gone. The house was empty. A neighbor told him, "Geppetto went out looking for you. He crossed the sea to find you." Pinocchio felt shocked. "He went into the sea for me?" For the first time, he understood how much Geppetto loved him. "I must find him," Pinocchio said. So Pinocchio began a long journey to find his father. Along the way, he met many people. Some were kind, but many were dangerous. Pinocchio, being curious and easily distracted, often made mistakes. One day, he met two strangers on the road. They looked friendly and said, "We can help you become rich. Come with us." Pinocchio followed them, but they tricked him. They took him to a place called the Land of Toys, where children played all day and never went to school. At first, Pinocchio thought it was wonderful. There were games, sweets, and no rules. "I like this place," Pinocchio said. But days passed, and something strange happened. The children who stayed too long began to turn into donkeys. Pinocchio realized he was changing too. His ears became longer, and his body felt different. He was scared. "I want to go home," he cried. But it was too late. He had ignored every warning. One night, he escaped from the Land of Toys and jumped into the sea. He swam as hard as he could, even though waves were huge and strong. He did not stop. He kept thinking about Geppetto. "I must find him," he said again and again. In the dark ocean, a giant whale appeared. It was so large that it blocked the moonlight. Pinocchio was swallowed by the whale. Inside the whale's stomach, it was dark and strange. But to his shock, he saw something familiar. There was a small fire burning, and near it sat Geppetto. "Father!" Pinocchio shouted. Geppetto turned around slowly. For a moment, he could not believe his eyes. Then he cried with joy. "You came for me," Geppetto said. "I came to save you," Pinocchio replied. Father and son hugged each other tightly inside the whale. But they needed to escape. Pinocchio came up with an idea. He made the whale sneeze by building a big fire using wood inside its stomach. The whale opened its mouth in a huge sneeze, and they were thrown into the sea. They floated on the water together, exhausted but alive. However, Geppetto was weak and could not swim well. Pinocchio tried his best to carry him to shore, but the waves were strong. Just when things became hopeless, something magical happened. The blue fairy appeared again. "You have shown courage and love," she said. "You have changed." She waved her hand, and Pinocchio's wooden body began to change. His arms became soft like skin. His face became warm and human. He was no longer a puppet. When he woke, he was lying in a small house. Geppetto was sitting beside him, smiling with tears in his eyes. "Pinocchio, you are a real boy now," he said softly. Pinocchio looked at his hands. They were no longer wood. He could feel everything like a real human. From that day on, Pinocchio worked hard, went to school, and helped his father. He learned to listen, to be honest, and to think before acting. The world was still full of temptations and distractions, but now he understood what truly mattered. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more wonderful stories. I look forward to seeing you in the next story. Until then, take care and have a wonderful day.